I tell you, he's got his own money. I mean, the boy has got his own money.
Coming to America came out in the summer of 1988 and never really left. You've probably watched it more times than you can count, and it still holds up. But there's a lot going on in that film that most people walk right past. In the background, in the casting, in the props, in the details, nobody bothered to explain. Here are 30 hidden details you missed in Coming to America, 1988.
The palace sounds good. Take us there. No, I want Queens. We're not rich. We're ordinary African.
Detail 30. Zamunda came from a Richard Pryor routine. The fictional African kingdom of Zamunda did not originate with Eddie Murphy or the screenwriters. The name was lifted from a Richard Pryor stand-up routine in which Pryor referenced a fictional African tribe by the same name. The writers had originally called the kingdom Zamuda, but director John Landis pushed to change it. Once they landed on Zamunda, the closing credits included a thank you to the fictitious Zamundan Film Commission, a joke buried where most viewers never look.
Petals of roses. But mother, if there were no rose petals, I would still be the son of a king.
Then it is settled. From this day forth...
Detail 29. It was Eddie Murphy's first time playing multiple characters on film. Before Coming to America, Eddie Murphy had appeared in several major films but had always played one role. Coming to America changed that. Beyond Prince Akeem, Murphy played Clarence the barbershop owner, Saul the elderly Jewish regular, and Randy Watson, the spectacularly untalented lead singer of Sexual Chocolate. The idea of playing the old Jewish man came from John Landis, who told Murphy he wanted to put him in the role partly as a commentary on the long history of Jewish entertainers in blackface, a kind of reversal. Once Murphy saw the test makeup, he was sold. Playing multiple characters in one film became one of his career signatures.
Through here, God each day, to be loved, wow.
Detail 28. Arsenio Hall played 4 roles too. Arsenio Hall matched Murphy character for character. Beyond Semi, Hall played the fiery and endlessly entertaining Reverend Brown, Morris, one of the barbers in the shop, and the extremely ugly girl who throws herself at Akeem in the dating scene. The characters are so thoroughly transformed by Rick Baker's makeup that many viewers watched the film multiple times without realizing Hall was in those scenes. According to Hall, Reverend Brown was a direct tribute to his own father. He was essentially playing an exaggerated version of the man who raised him. The performance is one of the most committed comedic turns in the entire film, and it belonged entirely to Hall.
Oh, yeah, him. He around here someplace. He live upstairs on the 5th floor.
Detail 27. Rick Baker's makeup was nominated for an Oscar. The transformations Murphy and Hall went through required hours in the makeup chair each day. Legendary makeup artist Rick Baker, who had already won an Oscar for An American Werewolf in London, designed and applied the prosthetic work throughout the film. The results earned Baker a nomination at the 61st Academy Awards for Best Makeup. Director John Landis later said that people frequently didn't understand how the barbershop scenes worked. At times, he pointed out, Murphy was 4 of the 7 people visible in the same scene. The makeup didn't just disguise the actors, it allowed them to disappear into the characters so completely that they performed differently once they were in it.
Am I not all you dreamed I would be?
Oh, you're fine. Beautiful, it's just that.
Detail 26. Murphy once used the Saul makeup to hit on a woman in real life. During the testing phase for the old Jewish man character, Rick Baker asked Murphy and Hall to put on the completed makeup and go out into the world to see whether it actually worked. Murphy walked through the Paramount lot in full Saw prosthetics and spent time interacting with people who had no idea they were talking to one of the biggest movie stars in the world. According to Arsenio Hall, Murphy managed to get an elderly woman's phone number. She believed she was talking to a real older gentleman and was genuinely charmed by him. When Hall told the story publicly, Murphy confirmed it while laughing and declined to say whether he ever followed up.
You got a point. Cassidy Clay was a bad motherfucker. Hey, I ain't saying Clay ain't bad. I'm just saying...
Detail 25. Jesse Jackson personally thanked Murphy without knowing the truth. After Coming to America was released, Reverend Jesse Jackson approached Eddie Murphy to personally thank him for his decision to cast so many elderly actors in the barbershop scene. Jackson praised what he saw as a conscious choice to include older black performers in the film. Murphy listened to the compliment and then told Jackson that he, in fact, played all 4 of the barbershop characters himself. According to Murphy, Jackson was visibly mortified and said he would need to watch the film again. Jackson had sat through the entire movie without realizing that the old barber owner, the Jewish regular, and the ancient bickering customers were all the same actor.
That's right. That's right. He gonna always be Clay to me. I don't give a fuck what change name to. He is Clay. He Clay.
Detail 24. Cuba Gooding Jr. made his film debut here, but his full scene was cut. The young man getting a haircut when Prince Akeem first walks into the barbershop is a then unknown Cuba Gooding Jr. making his film debut. Gooding originally had a longer scene. His character explains he can't pay for the haircut, and Clarence responds by shaving a bald patch into the boy's head. The scene was cut from the final film, leaving only a brief glimpse. Gooding went on to win an Academy Award for Jerry Maguire in 1997.
Come on! You're wasting my time now. Come on! Come on!
Detail 23. Samuel L. Jackson was in one of his first major film roles. The man who holds up McDowell's restaurant, arriving with a gun and demanding money while Akeem disarms him with a mop handle, is Samuel L. Jackson. At the time of filming, Jackson was a working actor who had appeared in small parts and bit roles, but had not yet broken through to the wider audience that would come to know him. He and Murphy were friends, and the role was part of an ongoing string of appearances Jackson was making in films during the late 1980s, before his career-defining performance in Jungle Fever in 1991 and Pulp Fiction in 1994. When the film was in theaters in 1988, most viewers had no idea who he was. Detail 22. The 2 bums who receive Akeem's money are characters from Trading Places. When Akeem gives cash to 2 disheveled homeless men on the street, those men are not random background players. They are Mortimer and Randolph Duke, the wealthy brothers played by Don Amiche and Ralph Bellamy in Landis and Murphy's previous film, Trading Places, 1983. In that film, Murphy's character had been central to destroying the Duke's fortune. Coming to America catches up with them 5 years later, broke and picking up money from a street corner. The Trading Places score plays quietly in the background of their scene for anyone listening closely.
1, the Russian weed harvest isn't gonna be as bad as everybody thinks. And 2...
Detail 21. Landis initially did not want to include the Trading Places cameo. The Trading Places cameo was not agreed upon without friction. John Landis opposed the idea when it was first proposed, arguing it was too self-referential. Producer George Folsey Jr. pushed for it. The dispute was resolved when Eddie Murphy said he thought it was a great idea. Murphy's enthusiasm settled it. Amiche and Bellamy were brought in, and the scene became one of the film's most beloved callbacks for viewers who recognized the characters.
All right, fellas, now your first job every morning would be to sweep this walkway.
Detail 20, McDowell's restaurant was a real Wendy's on Queens Boulevard. The fictional fast food chain McDowell's, where Akeem and Semi find work and Akeem meets Lisa, was filmed at an actual working Wendy's location at 85-07 Queens Boulevard in Elmhurst, Queens. The building was converted for 3 weeks of filming into McDowell's, with the familiar golden arches replaced by the film's golden arcs. On the first day the McDowell's sign went up, the manager of a nearby McDonald's arrived with a lawyer and began taking photographs, threatening a lawsuit, not initially understanding that the exterior was part of a movie set. That real-world encounter closely mirrored the lawsuit subplot already written into the story. The Wendy's location was eventually demolished in 2013 to make way for a luxury apartment building.
Listen! Real American!
Detail 19. The apartment and barbershop were not in Queens. Akeem chooses Queens as his destination because he is looking for a queen, a joke the film makes explicit, but almost none of what was presented as Queens was actually filmed there. The apartment building where Akeem and Semi live is located at 392 South 5th Street in the Williamsburg neighborhood of Brooklyn, on the corner of Hooper Street. The My T Sharp barbershop, where most of the film's best comedy takes place, was right downstairs in that same building. The subway station seen in the film was the Hoyt-Schermerhorn Street station, also in Brooklyn. The McDowell's exterior was the only major set piece that was actually in Queens. The rest of the borough scenes were filmed across the river.
You see, I love the Lord. You understand what I'm saying? I love the Lord. And if love...
Detail 18. The paintings in Lisa's apartment were done by Eddie Murphy. When Akeem visits Lisa's apartment, several original paintings hang on the walls. One of them depicts the exterior of McDowell's restaurant. Every painting seen in the apartment was made by Eddie Murphy himself. Murphy had a long-standing habit of inserting personal creative work into films, things he had made or photographed himself. He painted the canvases specifically for the film. Most viewers assume the artwork is simply set decoration organized by the production team, but it was Murphy's own work on those walls.
Next time you and my father decide to get together to plan my life, I wish you'd let me in on it.
It's not like...
Detail 17. Spike Lee's photo appears in Lisa's apartment. In one of Lisa's apartment scenes, behind a door, there is a framed photograph of filmmaker Spike Lee and his sister Joey Lee. At the time, Spike Lee was one of the most prominent young black filmmakers in the country. His 1986 debut, She's Gotta Have It, had made a significant impression, and Do the Right Thing would come out the following year. Lee had publicly criticized Murphy for not doing more to support black talent in Hollywood. The photograph in Lisa's apartment is generally understood to have been Murphy's quiet acknowledgement of Lee's critique, a subtle tip of the hat placed somewhere only attentive viewers would find. Detail 16. Paula Abdul choreographed the opening tribal dance. The elaborate Zamundan ritual dance at the film's opening was choreographed by Paula Abdul. At the time, Abdul was still primarily known as a choreographer. She had choreographed Janet Jackson's videos and was a Laker girl, and her first solo single, Forever Your Girl, wouldn't be released until a month after the film opened. John Landis contacted her specifically because he wanted the person who had choreographed Janet Jackson. She walked into the meeting with a briefcase containing only her Laker Girl tapes and Jackson videos. Landis hired her. The sequence took 2 days to film. Detail 15. Most of the tribal dance was based on the moves from Michael Jackson's Thriller. Director John Landis had previously directed Michael Jackson's Thriller music video in 1983, one of the most famous short films ever made. In constructing the Zamandan tribal dance for Coming to America, the choreography drew heavily from the same movement vocabulary used in Thriller. Most of the high-tempo ceremonial steps mirror the iconic Thriller choreography in recognizable ways. This was deliberate. Landis was working in familiar creative territory, and the visual language of that 1983 video was embedded in the sequence. For viewers who knew Thriller well, the connection was visible in nearly every beat of the dance.
I thought it was you.
You know me. Anything for the kids.
Detail 14. The Soul Glow jingle was written by Nile Rodgers. The catchy jingle for Soul Glow, the fictional Jerry Curl adjacent hair product that belongs to the family of Lisa's obnoxious boyfriend Daryl, was written by Nile Rodgers, the legendary musician and producer behind acts including Chic, David Bowie's Let's Dance, and Daft Punk's Get Lucky. Rodgers composed the entire soundtrack for Coming to America. He has said in multiple interviews that the Soul Glow jingle is his proudest moment, a claim he makes partly with tongue-in-cheek, given the scope of his actual career. The jingle was performed by vocalist Christopher Max. The Soul Glow product has taken on a life of its own in popular culture, with the name entering the language as the default reference for Jerry Curl products.
A lady doesn't have to work. I'll take care of you. I'll get you anything you want.
Detail 13. The film is widely credited with killing off the Jerry Curl. The Jerry Curl had been enormously popular in black communities throughout the early and mid-1980s. By 1988, it was already beginning to fade. Coming to America is widely credited with accelerating that decline. The Soul Glow parody, the grease stain on the couch when Daryl's family stands up, and the visual comedy built around the product's dripping excess were so precisely observed that the Jerry Curl became difficult to wear without invoking the joke. Screenwriter Barry Blaustein later said Daryl's hair was specifically modeled on NBA player Michael Cage of the Los Angeles Clippers, who was known for his prominent curl at the time.
All of it! Don't stall me, fat boy. Let's go! Come on!
Detail 12. Louis Anderson was cast because Paramount demanded a white actor. The entire cast of Coming to America was black, and Paramount Pictures pushed back against this. According to Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall, studio executives told them the film could not move forward without a white cast member. Paramount provided a list of 3 white performers for consideration. Murphy and Hall chose Louis Anderson because they knew him personally and liked him. Anderson played Maurice, the McDowell's employee who plans to move up to manager in 2 years. Murphy later described the conversation in a 2021 interview, saying the studio was explicit about their position. They were not making the movie without somebody white in it.
Your flight comfortable, I trust?
Your only job was to look after Akeem. How could you let him come to such a pass?
Detail 11. James Earl Jones originally wanted to play a different role. James Earl Jones, who delivered one of the film's most commanding performances as King Jaff Joffer, had initially expressed interest in playing Cleo McDowell, the fast food restaurant owner played by John Amos. The filmmakers wanted Jones in the larger royal role instead and persuaded him to take it. The casting he eventually accepted gave the film something it could not have had otherwise. 6 years later, Jones and his co-star Madge Sinclair, who played Queen Aeolian, were brought back together for the 1994 Disney animated film The Lion King, in which they played the royal couple of Pride Rock, Mufasa, and his queen, Sarah B.
Your queen too.
Detail 10, Vanessa Williams and Sidney Poitier were considered for major roles. Before the principal cast was locked, 2 other major names were in consideration for key roles. Vanessa Williams, who had recently made history as the first Black Miss America, was being considered for the role of Lisa McDowell, the part that went to Sherry Headley. Williams did not take the role. Sidney Poitier, the groundbreaking Oscar-winning actor, was considered for the role of King Jaffe Joffer. The role eventually went to James Earl Jones. Both Poitier and Williams would have brought very different energy to the film. The casting decisions that were ultimately made shaped the movie's tone in ways that are now inseparable from the finished product.
Why did you lie to me then? Why didn't you just tell me you were Prince?
Because I wanted you to love me.
Detail 9. The spike in Lisa's speech was a Whitney Houston reference. At the Black Awareness Rally, Lisa gives a short speech and uses the phrase, "The children are our future." The same lyric that opens Whitney Houston's 1985 hit, "The Greatest Love of All." The film was made at a time when Murphy and Houston were reportedly close friends. Houston later said in an interview that she was going with Eddie at the time she met Bobby Brown. Murphy described it as a friendship. Whatever their connection, the phrase in Lisa's speech was there for viewers who caught it.
And please, I am more than the exalted ruler of this land and the master of all I survey.
Detail 8. The film's story was the subject of a major lawsuit. Before Coming to America had even finished its theatrical run, the film became the center of a significant legal dispute. Humorist and screenwriter Art Buchwald filed suit against Paramount Pictures, claiming the film was based on a story treatment he had written in 1982, titled King for a Day, which had been under option at the studio. In a case known as Buchwald versus Paramount, a Los Angeles Superior Court judge ruled in December 1989 that the film was indeed based on Buchwald's story. Buchwald accepted a financial settlement. Eddie Murphy remained listed as the original story creator on the film, a credit that stayed unchanged after the settlement was reached.
With a Keem?
No, I don't like that. I don't like that one bit.
What's wrong with a Keem?
Detail 7. John Amos literally fell off his chair when he heard about the Soul Glow couch scene. When John Amos met with John Landis to discuss the role of Cleo McDowell, he was already committed once he heard the character's name and the basic concept of his McDonald's parody restaurant. But the moment that sealed it was when Landis described a specific scene. The Jenks family, each of them soaked in Soul Glow activator, standing up to leave McDowell's house and leaving their greasy silhouettes on the white couch cushions. Amos found it so funny that he literally fell off his chair. Landis immediately asked if he wanted the role. Amos told him to try and stop him. He later said he laughed himself sick on set every single day of filming.
I always knew there was something special about that boy.
Can you tell us where he might be?
Oh, yes, he's out with my lovely daughter, Lisa.
Detail 6. John Amos actually tripped on the stairs, and it stayed in the film. In a scene where Cleo McDowell is being interrupted by Daryl for the 3rd time and is trying to usher people around, John Amos actually stumbles on the stairs. It was not written into the script. He simply tripped during the take. Director Landis liked it and kept the moment in the final cut. The stumble fits the character perfectly. Cleo is a man perpetually off balance and slightly out of control in his own house. and it plays as intentional physical comedy to anyone watching it. But it was a genuine accident. Detail 5. The "See you next Wednesday" Easter egg is hidden in the subway scene. Director John Landis has a recurring signature detail that appears in nearly every film he has ever made, a fictional movie titled "See You Next Wednesday." It began as a reference to a line from 2001, A Space Odyssey, and became his calling card, hidden somewhere in the background of each production. In Coming to America, it appears as a poster in the subway station after Lisa storms off the train following her argument with Akeem. The poster shows "See You Next Wednesday" and lists Dan Aykroyd and Jamie Lee Curtis among its stars, both actors who worked with Landis on other films. It is placed in the background and partially obscured, but it is there.
Good to be here. Man, yes.
Detail 4. F. Gary Gray and Tobe Hooper both have cameos. Two notable filmmakers appear in Coming to America as background performers. F. Gary Gray, who would go on to direct films including Friday, Set It Off, Straight Outta Compton, and The Fate of the Furious, appears in the front row of the Black Awareness Program audience, seated directly in front of Eddie Murphy, Arsenio Hall, and Clint Smith. He was a young production assistant at the time. Director Tobe Hooper, who made the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Polite Geist, appears standing to the right of Reverend Brown at the McDowell party, listening to Brown's relentless preaching. Neither man has a credited role. They are simply there in the background of scenes that most viewers walk right through.
Rockin' Montana was good, but compared to Joe Lewis, Rockin' Montana ain't shit.
He beat Joe Lewis's ass.
Detail 3. Clint Smith, who plays Sweets the Barber, was Eddie Murphy's real best friend from high school. The barber character, known as Sweets, who works in the My T-Sharp shop alongside Clarence and Morris, is played by Clint Smith. Smith was Eddie Murphy's actual best friend growing up, the two having been close since their high school years in Inglewood, New Jersey. The barbershop characters that Murphy and Smith play in the film, the argumentative, opinionated men who fill the chairs and argue endlessly about everything, were based on a comedic double act Murphy and Smith had developed together years earlier. Murphy described it as a routine they called Clinton and Edmund, which they had been performing for fun long before it ever reached a movie set. Detail 2. The Wonder Bread truck in the background was a direct callback to Eddie Murphy Raw. Shortly after Akeem and Semi arrive in Queens and are standing on the street taking in the neighborhood, a Wonder Bread delivery truck passes through the background of the shot. The moment is easy to miss. But in his 1987 stand-up film, Eddie Murphy, Raw, released just 1 year before Coming to America, Murphy had told a story about his childhood that featured Wonder Bread prominently as a symbol of growing up without money. The truck's appearance in the background was not accidental. It was a quiet, personal reference dropped into the frame by Murphy for anyone who had recently watched Raw and knew exactly what that truck meant.
You must be tired of hearing about my problems with Daryl.
Oh, no, not at all.
You know,
Detail 1. The film was directed and released under enormous time pressure. Coming to America was shot under remarkable time pressure. Principal photography began on January 4th, 1988, and the film was in theaters by June 29th, less than 6 months from first day of filming to opening night. For a production involving 8 principal actors, over 100 extras in the tribal dance, multiple New York locations, Paramount interior sets, and days of prosthetic makeup work for 8 separate characters played by 2 people. That was a tight window. Landis and Murphy's well-documented creative clashes. Landis later described the Murphy on Trading Places as fresh and curious, and the Murphy on Coming to America as the pig of the world, played out entirely within those 6 months. Whatever the tension cost them personally, it didn't show in the finished film. A lot was packed into that 116 minutes. The fake country with a real name, borrowed from Richard Pryor. The old men in the barber shop, who were the same 2 actors you already knew. The paintings on the wall that one of the stars made himself. The jingle that the man who produced David Bowie considers his proudest work. The couch stain that made John Amos fall off his chair. Coming to America held up because it was made by people who cared about what they were putting on screen, and they put more into it than most people noticed. Now you know what to look for when you watch it again. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe. There's plenty more coming.